go. So welcome to episode 4 of the Healthy Brain podcast with my guest, Tran from the Alphaden. So just explain to the viewers, mate, just a bit about you, your background, qualifications, and just pretty much how you've got into the Alphaden. So, yeah.
Yeah, hi everyone. So my name's Tree. So I'm a personal trainer that I guess transitioned from a regular job that everybody would say into owning the Alphaden, which is a home-based personal training studio. And I guess the reason for that transition is, I guess, fulfillment and just going after my passion. So yeah, so that's the I guess the driver for the transition. And how I came about that is I'm part of the group as well as yourself, Fantastic, which is about I guess just finding your way, your values, and just bettering ourselves as men. So that's the transition so far.
No worries, mate. And did you have any hiccups along the way on that transition to starting up your the Alphaden, like within your regular job?
Yeah, I guess hiccups was just getting out of that comfort, because I was in a job that was fairly well paying, but it was just not fulfilling and I was miserable. So I guess a lot of people can resonate with that. Is you get into comfort and you build yourself a lifestyle that kind of gets you trapped in the 9 to 5, or trapped in earning a certain amount of money just so you can sustain a lifestyle that I guess you perceive as successful, but you're miserable. And hiccups being, I guess, just being alone. I guess that the journey to doing anything a lot of the times is lonely, because a lot of people don't see your vision, or I guess they just want the best for you, and doing something that's perceived as not stable, they're just caring for you and they don't want you to do it. But then if you have a strong enough vision, you just have to back yourself. The biggest hiccup, I guess, is when I started the Alphaden, I had a plan. So everything was planned out, and part of my plan was running group sessions. But the group sessions were getting a little bit too big. So then the council came around and kind of told me that I couldn't do it anymore. And that threw a big spanner in the works, because that was all part of my plan to try and grow the business. But I guess with that challenge helped me to grow as a person, and also as a business person, to sort of adapt and pivot my goals or my plans. So in terms of hiccups, that's probably the biggest one that comes to mind. But then there's been millions of challenges, because having your own business, you need to be the marketer, the salesman, the trainer, everything. So it's still a big learning curve.
Yeah, no, well put, Tree. It definitely would be a lot of responsibility, that's for sure. Because pretty much it's your own business, and everything rests in your decisions and that. So no, that's fantastic, man. It's good that you've come out of your regular job, and you've done what you always wanted to do. So you said you had a personal training background. I think you did compete in bodybuilding shows. So can you maybe just touch on that for the viewers?
So I guess that's where, sure. So I guess where my passion, or where the Alphaden came from, was, I guess I was very passionate about bodybuilding training and all that sort of stuff, but it's very extreme, but the principles work. There's no denying that what bodybuilders do works, but not everybody or the general public can sort of adhere or stick to such a strict regimen. So part of the reason why I developed the Alphaden was initially a place for men. Like, I wanted a place for men to come and train, but not only train their physical muscles or be big and buff or whatnot, but also a place where men can come and talk and, I guess, bounce ideas off each other. Just a place to grow, a positive place for masculinity. I know there's a lot of stuff about toxic masculinity, all this sort of stuff, but I feel like as men, we need a positive place to grow, a positive place where we lift one another up. So that was the idea behind the Alphaden. And I guess I've always enjoyed helping people. And I guess I was just the person everyone came to when they needed training advice, nutrition advice, because of my bodybuilding background. So I just thought I would try to turn this into a passion and do something that I love, using the skills that I have. So that's where I guess my transformation from the 9-to-5 tree to the Alphaden tree, and the passion that drove that, if that sort of answers your question.
Yeah, no, perfect. And in saying that, you've obviously got a lot going on now with the business, and it's pretty much your own, like, you've turned pretty much your own place into a personal training studio where you do train, all these clients and help them, better in their lives and aspirations. So do you is that more of like a group fitness kind of environment, or like what's pretty much your basic day consist of in terms of like your Alphaden training principles?
So at the minute, I do one-on-one stuff in the Alphaden, and I'm working on I'm transitioning into more of an online space, creating a program for, so I've pivoted sort of my target market being from men. I'm still passionate about that, but I've pivoted to more mothers. So because I've kind of realized that what mothers want to achieve out of training and nutrition is a lot different to, I guess, the general public or other people. It's more about performance and just mental health, and just becoming better than what they were. And I've kind of feel like this market is kind of, there's not a lot of emphasis into mothers, and I guess into that, the mindset, as well as the aesthetics portion of training and nutrition, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, that my day-to-days is I'm building my online business as well as building the physical business, which is the Alphaden.
Yeah, it makes sense. Would you say the online stuff was a bit of a challenge to get your head around at the start? Because obviously with social media, like, it can be overwhelming because there's like so much, there's so much out there. So just maybe explain that a bit.
Massively, because prior to starting a business, I was very anti-social media. I guess I just always thought it was just a place to flex and people to just show off or whatnot. But so I've had to shift that mindset into using it as a tool for my business, into using it as a marketing tool, and into a tool to, I guess, get my message out there and use it to be productive with it, rather than just mindless scrolling and just getting sucked into that sort of rabbit hole, so to speak. And it's been a massive challenge for me to sort of get into that world and understanding the marketing aspect of social media, how to increase your reach, all that sort of stuff. So in terms of growth as a businessman, and I guess as a person as well, it's been a massive stepping stone for me.
Yeah, brilliant, man. It's good. It's you can see that you have come a long way with your business as well. So it's good that and especially these days, and because of COVID and stuff, social media can help a lot. So that's really good that you've taken the time to do your research and learn all that side of things. So yeah, man, it's awesome. And just also in relation to social media, you see a lot of fallacies out there with fitness and training and all that. How have you debunked that side of things and said, no, this is fucking bullshit. This is what I don't want to be, teaching to my clients, or, presenting to my clients. Like, how have you kind of steered away from all like that, just the social media fallacies and just all the bullshit?
I guess having a clear vision and having clear values of who I am and what I want my business to represent. So what I mean by that is my goal is to try and reach and help as many people with sort of, excuse me, with sort of science-backed principles and techniques and all that sort of stuff. So I guess I'm continually trying to find ways where I'm wrong. if that makes sense. So I try to not be so set in a belief system that I kind of close my mind off to any new information, research, or anything like that that could benefit me as a trainer and also my clients. So that's where I kind of try to stay. I don't want to say different from other people, because I just try to stay in my own lane and just have my own values and my own vision drive me, rather than going, I want to be better than this person, or this person's doing that, I should do it too. I just know where I want to take my business and where I want to take myself as a trainer. And I just use that as, I guess, the guiding star to the service I provide, if that makes sense.
Yeah, perfect, man. That sums it up pretty well. And leading up to that, how would you describe your like ideal healthy lifestyle for an average working man? So just say, for example, myself, I work a daily job, but implementing those training and nutritional habits to better myself and to get to my goals, like how would you like structure that for your average client?
I guess it's about finding what works for the client. And so what I mean by that is, what works for me may not work for you, and what works for you may not work for somebody else. And I guess it's that I feel like that's where a coach's true job comes out, because realistically nowadays with the internet and all that, if you dig deep enough, you would find information you are looking for. But how to put all the pieces of that information together, I feel that's where a good coach comes in to help guide you to find your way. So I don't really prescribe like, hey, you have to eat 5 meals a day, you have to do this, you have to do that. I try and lead my client to finding their way through a series of questions, if that makes sense. Like, say, how many days would you like to train? But then there's sort of like perennial principles of, like, say, calories in versus calories out. Whether my belief is whether you do paleo, low carb, high carb, low fat, high fat, whatever it is, you still need to adhere to the calories in versus calories out principle to reach a goal. Does that make sense? So like, if you, even though you do, this is my belief, even if you do say keto or whatnot, but if you're eating in a surplus of what your body needs, you're going to put on weight.
Exactly.
Keto
right.
itself isn't a magic bullet. Just because you're eating a ton of fat, you're going to lose weight. Well, if you're eating 10,000 calories worth of fat, you're going to get fat. In any sort of, if you eat 10,000 calories worth of broccoli, you're still going to get fat because you've got a surplus of what your body needs. Yeah. So to answer your question, what I try to do is I find my client's way and then help guide them through that process, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely, man. So it would probably be more like a screening tool where you'd see where they're at or what their preferences are with how many days they want to train and what they're comfortable of doing. So would you say,
exactly,
like with just in relation to training, would you say that you would say to them, you would screen them first and say, okay, they can perform this movement good, we'll keep this in the program? Like what's your principles around that?
So I sort of set it. So if we're talking about training, I'll first find out what they can sort of commit to. So I don't want, like, when someone starts up, the emotions are high, the motivation's high, and they're like, I'll train 7 days a week, this, that, and the other. Because we've all been there. I've been there. But then I kind of cut it back to go, okay, so you want to train 7, let's commit to 3. So I'll set the bare ass minimum. So then it's something they can adhere to and we can build up to. Whereas going, okay, I'll set out a 7-day training plan for you, and then they'll probably do it for a week or 2 and then burn out. So I always try to set the least amount to get the ball rolling with my clients. And then once they get the momentum going, the motivation, then I'll slowly build and then just set good habits in place to keep up adherence.
Yeah, exactly right. I think, there's been like a cultural shift a bit in like the fitness industry where there's more of that going on. Whereas like I remember cultural shift where it's like, what are you comfortable with? And I think Tommy in one of his sessions described that when he had his business where, there was a client that came to him and said, I want to train 6 days a week. And I want to just fucking crush it. And the guy just like burnt out after like 2 weeks or something. So it is like you said, man, that's really good that you implement that. And it's good to just, you know, set realistic expectations with goal setting and all that. So and would you say you do the same thing with your nutrition? So like when you're setting a client nutrition targets and that, it's obviously, you know, realistic and they can adhere to. Like what's your take on that?
Yeah, so I like I was saying before, I always go off the principle of calories in versus calories out.
Yeah.
But even with that principle, the first few weeks when a client comes to me, it's a feeling out a period, sort of like, okay, so I'll set a certain amount of calories or whatnot, but then it's not set in concrete. It's me and the client working together to go, okay, so is that working? It's not. Why isn't it working? Okay, so what can we do to fix up to make it work? So then my thinking is, if I can make the diet as enjoyable as possible for the client, the chances are the client is going to adhere to it. Because I could set up the best diet, the best training in the world, but then if the adherence is low, it's not going to work. So the best diet is the one that the client can stick to. So I try to, within reason, I try to set it as easy as possible. So then the client can stick to it and then get a couple of wins on the board early. And then once you get the wins, the motivation starts to come up, and that's when we can sort of tighten it up a little bit more. Does that sort of all make sense?
Yeah, definitely, mate.
Yeah.
And it's yeah, that's exactly right. Like with training, I think the diet is the same because yeah, like there can be just mental burnout where, you know, like meal plans, they've got a time and place, but if you do, you know, if you're following them religiously and, you know, you go out, it's it can throw a spanner in the works and all that. So it's good to have that bit of flexibility. But yeah, no, that's brilliant that you do that with all your clients and stuff. And I noticed you do a bit of like kickboxing and that too. So is that just more of like a strength and conditioning background that you have?
Yeah, so I used to do it myself. So then it's just another service that I find people enjoy that stuff more from a mental aspect. It's sort of like empowering and it's releasing. There's just something about it. Just I've noticed that clients that leave after like a traditional bodybuilder workout, upper lower or something, they're happy. But after they've been like done a really hard pad session or something, the endorphins are going. They're just happier. So yeah, so I'm just about giving my clients what they want, not what I want. Like if I want it, for me, it'll be like bodybuilders trial style training, all that sort of stuff. But that's what I want, and not necessarily what my clients want. So I try to work with my clients and deliver the service that they want, because ultimately that's what they're coming to me for, isn't it? It's not really to come to me to do what I want, it's what they want.
Exactly right. Yeah, no, well put. And in saying that, would you say the research at the moment has like shifted your mindset? So like just saying in training, for example, like just the principles and all that, like have you had second thoughts on some things that you've made a decision on where it's like, oh fuck, I've been wrong in something, or like, you know, even in you know, both training and nutrition or just within the industry?
So part of my transformation in that aspect was I was like you, it was a bodybuilder style workout where you do chest one day, all that sort of stuff, where not so recently, but the biggest sort of shift for me was shifting from that to like upper lowers, like an upper day, a lower day. So increase the frequency, increase volume, all that sort of stuff. But the biggest thing that I've sort of come across lately is, because I've come from the bodybuilding sort of background, everything's very regimented. You know, you eat this, you eat that, everything's planned out. But there's been a really big shift towards intuitive eating lately. And I've always been against that because I feel like I still am a little bit, but I think there's a time and a place for it. For me, I feel like intuitive eating can be done, I guess, effectively and well after you've gone through that period where you know exactly what your body needs, exactly what foods contain, how many calories. So you have a lot of history and I guess experience with dieting and eating. That's when you can shift into intuitive eating. Whereas if you had a client who has no nutritional background, hasn't done anything with dieting or anything before, and you just sold them this intuitive eating principle, I don't think that client will get very good results, because they don't know how to eat intuitively. They don't know what 2000 calories looks like. So I'm in the process now of thinking, how can I make a model based around intuitive eating where I educate my clients and teach them how to eat properly, and then transition them into an intuitive eating model, so then the burden or the overwhelm of tracking is taken away. But I still feel that the tracking and the calorie counting and all that sort of stuff still needs to be done at the beginning during the learning phase, if that makes sense.
Definitely, mate. Yeah, no, I definitely agree with what you said. Exactly my thoughts. I've been following, I follow the research too, and yeah, exactly right. Intuitive eating does have a time and place and especially with your clients that you work with. I think that initially, this is my opinion. I think initially that tracking is the best form of results, and then once they sustain that habit, once they get used to it and they know portion sizes and all that, yeah, definitely intuitive eating can definitely take that stress away of using MyFitnessPal all the time, and it can alleviate some of that pressure too. So just it can be a mental break, if that makes sense. So so yeah, no, I definitely agree with what you just said. So yeah. Also, would you say that training, back to that, would you say you've changed your opinion on some of the philosophies with training, intensity, volume, and, all that stuff? Or has it been pretty much the same for you?
I guess it's been the same, but I've sort of evolved in terms of more towards scientific sort of theories and principles, rather than back in the day when I started training. It was just 3 sets of 12, train balls to the wall. That old school sort of mentality.
Yeah. The magazines.
That's it, bro. And I think we all,
good days.
I think we all start there. The Arnie days, just train till you pass out or spill or something, and then you've trained hard. But I guess the transition from that to more of an intelligent approach of sort of intelligently programming volume, frequency, exercise selection, all that sort of stuff, how it all ties in, rather than just go and squat to your spew and then you've done a good session. There's no, I guess there's a time and a place for something like that. I'm not against that sort of training, not so much for muscle growth, but sometimes just for mental. For me, sometimes I'll go and do a session like that where I feel absolutely exhausted, but that's for my mindset to know that I can push myself through that, rather than this is how you train for muscle growth. I know that's not how you train for muscle growth, but then if I go into a session, I always think, okay, so what's the goal of my session? Is it for muscle growth? Is it for stimulation? Is it for that sort of stuff? Or is it just for a mental release? Sometimes I go to the gym for a mental release. So then I don't care about all the sets or what. I just go and train so I just feel good, if that makes sense. So that's the outcome that I want from this training session. So I'll just go and just train as hard as I can and just feel fucked. But that's because I want to feel like that to just release whatever is going on up here, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely, man. I'm just laughing because I used to do the same thing. And now I train kind of the same way now too. I follow the scientific principles. I've read a few books as well. And yeah, it's just changed my perspective so much. But yeah, at the same time too, I think that it's important to push yourself as well. It's, like you said, there is a time and place, especially probably leading up to a last block of training, or that last week, you just fucking go, you push probably, you probably have 1 rep left in the tank on an exercise or something, or depending if it's an isolation or compound and all that. So yeah, I definitely agree with that philosophy. But also it's intelligent training does come in very handy with clients that are new to a movement, or they haven't, for example, they haven't squatted properly before, their form's not the best. if you go failure on a squat.
Look, that's for myself. Like I don't prescribe those sorts of things for my clients. It's just like from a personal experience, it's just I always go into with what do I want to achieve out of this session. Like 9 times out of 10, I'm following a program, but some days if I just feel like, you know what, I just want to go in there and just train and just feel, you know, exhausted, then I'll go in there and do that. But that's more so for my mindset and my mentality rather than muscle growth or a physical aspect.
Yeah, no, definitely, man. I think it's good to have those moments too, just to, you know, see where, you know, how far you can push it, and yeah, exactly, for mindset too, like on a personal level, I'm saying it's really good. So yeah, man. Would you any new projects on the horizon for the Alphaden? Like, are you just growing? What's new on what's up and coming?
So the up and coming thing is, so I'm just going through, I've got the program together for mothers. It's called the Lioness Movement. And I'm just the biggest, I guess, the next biggest project is getting that up and running. But in terms of the Facebook groups, the marketing, all that sort of stuff. So that's the next biggest phase I'm going through now, is to have I guess, develop systems for that phase of growth, which is the Lioness Movement. So that's the next biggest project.
Good stuff, man. And would you say that you'll be working on like more content as well, like with your, you know, social media advertising and all that?
Yeah. So that's a massive portion. I've got all these notes here, just taking all these notes on sort of like Facebook groups and how to get engagement up, all that sort of stuff, because that's all new to me. So I guess physical training, PTing, all that sort of stuff I'm experienced in, but then all this sort of other stuff when it comes to marketing, engagement, all that's all new. So that's like where my focus is now, is trying to level up on that aspect.
No, good stuff, man. Well, Tree, it's been a pleasure talking to you, man. And yeah, maybe do you want to just tell the viewers where they can follow you on your journey, or, you know, all your socials?
Yeah, so the Alphaden on Instagram, so the Alphaden 2_ for Instagram, and Facebook is the Alphaden, the group there. So just come and have a look and see if I add any value to your life. If I do, cool. If not, then unfollow. All good.
I think you will, man. So I think you will add a lot of value to a lot of people out there, man, especially the times of today. So yeah, man. Awesome. Good chat, man. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers, man. See you later.